I tell her all the time, I would not be here today if it weren't for you. And I know that to be true. And I have to repeatedly tell her that. So we've got to help them make them part of the story.
Okay, great. I'm like, Anna, I need your help. I need you there. Like, what are the steps to like get about going to becoming a leader that I need to become?
Yeah. So are we talking about just a leader wanting to be a better leader or a team?
Yeah, a leader, better leader, right? Or building the team, right?
Yeah.
Just essentially, walk us through how your service helps to get there, like, the steps that go in the process involved.
Yeah. I mean, I think if we had to layer it out, it would start with you, right? If the leader says, I really want you to come in, I have organizations reach out like, we have a performance issue. I know we could be doing better. I think maybe we have a culture issue too. Can you come in? The answer is always like, okay, we start with you. And I know they don't want to hear it, but if we don't, nothing I do, it will just waste your money. So let's not even try. So we have to start with them to say like, what are you doing that you can stop doing or pause so that you can create capacity? Because I think there's two problems that almost all leaders have is capacity and capability. Like we are pushing ourselves too hard. We don't have breathing room, right? We've already talked about the value of the pause. So we've got to stop and pause some things to create capacity for new things. What could you be doing better or differently as an individual? What could you be doing better or differently as a leader? And so we start there by creating that capacity. And then we talk about capabilities. How often are you living in your strengths? Are there any areas where you need to improve? And P.S., there's always areas that all of us need to improve. So let's be humble enough to admit that. And I'm not saying I'm going to send you away for some 4 months training or something, or that it may not even be official training, because I'm actually not a huge fan of official training without any other supplement. I'd rather have the hand-to-hand combat of like, what are you going to do to perform differently over the next 2 weeks, over the next 1 month, over the next quarter? Let's just start there to shift some of those behaviors. And I'm not trying to make you somebody different. I'm actually trying to bring out your natural skill sets that maybe somebody didn't see, or you had a model that had different strengths than you. And so therefore you tried to emulate that model. Good. Now let's take what we want out of that model. And then let's get back to you. How do you lead? How do you operate? What's been the most successful things that you've done to grow your business today? And let's do more of that. Right. So we really start with the individual. And once we get them into, like I say, under control, because it's sort of an overlap. Once we get that first part cleared out, then we can start working with the team to say, like, how do we, that leader and each of those team members want to grow the business? Because they can share their vision, but we got to hear what the vision of the whole team is. Do you buy into that? I think two business owners, and this is probably not going to be two leaders that your readers are looking at, but I would invite them to look at Rachel Hollis and Dave Hollis and the company they built called the Hollis Co. HOLLIS. I truly admire, what they've built for an organization. And if you watch what the Hollis Company is doing, you don't have to look at Dave and Rachel individually if you don't want to, although they're very successful in their own right. Look at how they've built this team to say that it isn't about the Rachel or Dave brand. It's about the Hollis Company and what they want to do as a group. And so it really, really matters for you to bring your people along, especially if you want them to stay. They've got to feel part of it. And we, as small business owners and leaders, have a bigger advantage in that area than big corporations do, because we're small enough, we're nimble enough that we actually can make them part of the story. Right? Your VA, my integrator, they're a huge chapter. I tell her all the time, I would not be here today if it weren't for you. And I know that to be true. And I have to repeatedly tell her that. So we've got to help them make them part of the story.
That's incredible. I love that. Start with yourself. What are you doing? Maybe trim, transfer, or trash, stuff that's getting in the way, that's holding you back from your capacity, holding back from the gifts that you've been given, your sweet spot, what you should be using. And then once you get that kind of settled and you've created some space there, start to grow and improve those other parts of yourself. And then number two, though, work on your team, right? And help bring the team in and help them become a part of the vision, right? Not just yourself, right? Made the vision be a team vision versus an individual vision. Fair summary?
It is a fair summary. And then I would say, and then we go back to you. As we're continuing to work on the team, now we get to layer in, and now I actually do get to work with you on a different version of your leadership with your team. right? Because you probably were leading differently. Now let's lead differently and better going forward. So now that you know what you know about you, now that you've collaborated with the team in new and different ways, how can you lead even more effectively, efficiently, and impactfully to your team? So then we can get really tactical.
It's so amazing. I love it, Anna.